All right, welcome back to Cloud City Cover. This is episode 3.
That's my good buddy Joel Schneider.
Hey.
Marvin Johnston.
Hey.
Maddie David. And I am super excited to have we'll just call it our inaugural first guest, Jake Weholt. Woo!
Happy to be here. This is awesome.
No, this is so excited to have you here because this has been like so long in the making. The history, just based on this episode, I guess, Jake is the first person to help us finish a cover song. Like, well, that was the whole idea behind this podcast.
That's the impetus behind the name.
Yeah, we were going to do a bunch of cover songs and then, interview the people that were, that helped us out, just to find out that that's a crazy undertaking, as, you can kind of attest to. This first song that we've completed is by one of the best bands in the world, Finch. And
off the What It Is to Burn album.
What It Is to Burn. The song is Letters to You, which is just a rad, monumentous song.
If you say that, nobody knows the name of the song.
It gives me goosebumps.
Nobody knows the name of that song. It's wild.
What name do you know?
I thought it was called I Miss You.
That's what it's called.
I thought it was... Wait a minute.
Yeah, no, it's
it's not really.
It's weird. I was telling my my bandmates last night about it at practice. I can't remember what I said. I can't remember what I named it, but somebody then corrected me. Great song though, fantastic song, super fun to sing. It's like got really, I would say, just like well-defined song structure, really great harmonies, really great vocal lines, awesome screaming parts, really like just strongly written song. I'm curious who did the production on that song to help them write such.
I'm almost positive it's Mark Trombino because they recorded that at Big Fish after Dude Ranch. That was like the big record that everyone heard that and said, I gotta go there.
Yeah.
Starting Line went there. Finch, that was like one of the big ones. And then Switchfoot ultimately did the same thing.
Got it. I mean, it's a great sounding record. It holds up. It's a great song.
Yeah. I hate the genre name of Screamo, but that's the first Screamo song. It's what it was.
Yeah.
And it kind of it launched an entire new genre. So, shout out to Finch.
It's interesting too. It seemed like that Finch in particular really like bridged the gap between like Dude Ranch skate punk and that Screamo genre, and really introduced folks more into that genre. It was really, a really cool transitional period for that style of music.
Even introduced a lot of like kids who were just into pop punk into metal.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was a great crossover. Yeah. Like different crowds. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with that song, and that's kind of like our segue to bringing you here today. But really, that's not what we want to talk about today. If you're interested in that song, click somewhere over here. And you can go listen to the whole song. But we kind of took this a direction with the first couple podcasts, and that's kind of the direction we want to go with you, find out more about you.
Yeah, so starting off, in terms of music, like where does it all start for you? Like your musical birth, like the first time that, I don't know, you found yourself just digging a song. I mean, what age did that happen at?
So my dad had this like really old record player, and he had a bunch of vinyl, a lot of like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young stuff, but he had my favorite of the records was Van Halen 1984. Nice. And
that brings a smile on my face.
That record, like, it changed the way I think about music. It was the like, I'm gonna get out the pots and pans and the Tinker Toys and like make the drum set. I'm gonna pick up, like, my dad had bought this PV Raptor starter guitar, and learning how to play songs on that thing and pretending that I was in a band. And it's funny because the songs are obviously like super catchy and super interesting. So like, and I was, I think, probably 6 or 7 listening to that record, which is like, the themes of that record are so adult. They're not good for a 7-year-old to be listening to. And like my dad had really no issue with either buying me records like that. He bought me Green Day Dookie when I was in 3rd grade, and like, again, sort of like introducing me to music that had these adult themes that were much more complex than I was actually aware of at that age. But going back and listening to that record, the Van Halen record, God, those guys, they are incredible songwriters. And just like David Lee Roth is a front man. Like I get a lot of inspiration and energy from him, but also Eddie Van Halen as a guitarist and a writer, a songwriter. It's just great. It's speaking of that sort of like crossover, songwriting, their ability to write things that were complex and interesting, but also ended up being super popular and super listenable and just absolutely exploded, that had depth. It's really cool. And I just sort of like happened into that. And as a 7-year-old, I did not understand like musical depth or like songwriting or anything like that. But having that intro was great. And I listened to that thing obsessively, and it still had the cellophane on it. And, it's just, incredible.
Can you describe it the way you would if you were 7?
Oh, man. All I know is that like I like found those synth tones like hypnotic, and being drawn in by,
you could feel it in your belly.
Totally. And it just like, it was overwhelming and interesting. And I remember like having friends over and I'd be like, listen to this record. And they were like, first, what's a record? Because like, kids, like, I don't know if you guys like experience this.
I watched this dope episode of Care Bears, man.
yeah, exactly. I don't know if you guys experience this at all, like being into music. It's like no one I knew cared or understood or knew about music the way that I just like felt like I inherently did. And to be able to like pull somebody into the room and be like, listen to this record, and they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're feeling from
Speaking
this.
a different language,
about.
man.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like an isolating feeling. You're like, wait a second, like, wait, is there something wrong with me? Am I the weird one here?
This is just the stuff my parents listen to in the car on the way to school.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
this is boring, man.
Exactly.
No, I appreciate that.
So I got to ask you, I don't know if you knew this going into this at all, but Eddie Van Halen's my favorite guitar player.
Oh,
That's like the
man.
reason why I started music.
Awesome.
My oldest son's name is Halen.
Oh, dude.
And his middle name isn't Van, which bothers me to no end.
Yeah, this has been a long conversation. But I was born in 1984. Like, there's all this stuff that like kind of culminates that. So that's like, to hear you say this is right off the bat, like, I got to hear more. But I do need to know, do you have a preference between David Lee Roth and I can't even think of his name right now.
Sammy Hagar.
Oh, yeah, it's David Lee Roth all day. In fact,
thank
he's
you.
got I think one of my favorite quotes of all time, which is I'm not like this because I'm in Van Halen. I'm in Van Halen because I'm like this.
That's
and like
wicked.
that ethos of like, we are who we are, and we're gonna find the places where we fit. And like, if you're lucky enough to find the place that your vibe, your energy thrives, then like you're one of the luckiest people on earth. And for him to like unite with Van Halen and for it to explode like that, it just worked. Ultimately, super toxic and like unsustainable as a band, but like they created magic.
Like all great artists.
Yeah, exactly.
That reminds me of a quote from Nirvana in that like they blew up, they're super big, and they were like Nirvana didn't go mainstream. The mainstream came to Nirvana.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Same vibe. I love it. So you've got, you fall in love with Van Halen at that crazy early age. I mean, to even like know the name of Van Halen when you're 6 and 7 years old is kind of like another level. Was there, it sounds like you were pretty passionate about music as a whole already, like that young. So what year was that for you?
That was, I guess, 1993, and I just moved to. I grew up in Shoreline as like a little kid, and I moved to Vancouver, Washington, and I was like, the guy coming in from like Seattle at the time, because it wasn't Shoreline, it was still Seattle, and like had this like sort of mystique, even as like a 6-year-old, and like I'm trying to
All the girls on the
exactly.
This guy knows the streets.
I'm trying to like cultivate an identity as a 6 or 7-year-old, and like music was really that thing because it was, it's like a shared language between my dad and I, and kind of interestingly, like my mom isn't into music at all, but my brother is super into music as well, and we had that shared vocabulary and that shared language, and we were able to really connect over that. And another thing I was just realizing too, when I was in 3rd grade, before I moved back to Seattle eventually, my dad took me to my first show, and my first show was it was the Tragic Kingdom tour with No Doubt with Weezer opening
Dude,
on the Blue
are you
album.
kidding me?
I was there.
good
I saw that at the Gorge.
Oh my God! This is at the Rose Garden in Portland.
I need to meet your dad,
Okay,
dude.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
thinking the same thing. Like your
Yeah.
dad
Cool guy.
is. Can we trade dad?
Yeah. His
I love you, Dad. I love you, Dad.
His band is playing in a festival in Lewiston, Idaho. I should give that a shout out.
Yeah,
he's,
dude.
he's still in a band, and he's still
Sweet.
killing it.
What are they
these
called?
days. The Kilroys.
The Killer.
Yeah, they play blues. They play the blues.
Plug.
Reminds me of a Styx song for some reason.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Hello, Mr.
Yeah.
Roboto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he was really just, and he did that. I think he did the from a parenting perspective is something that's really interesting and be like when I eventually have kids, it'd be great to emulate if I have kids. And that is like, you just bring musical instruments into the house and gives kids the opportunity to just discover and just do the thing that they want to do. There's no like pressure to do lessons or anything like that. Eventually I wanted to get into lessons to become better, but we just had like a drum set, a bass and a guitar and a synth laying around, and I would just like write stupid songs and like see what worked and try and like be in a band. And it started at that young age of seeing those like pictures of Van Halen and watching MTV and like seeing all this. I just knew that I wanted to play music. I just knew it from whenever I could pick up a guitar. I knew I wanted to play music.
Dude, it's really cool to hear you say it from that perspective, and I've never really thought of it like that, because if you look behind you,
Yeah.
nobody is forced to play anything in this house except for me. That was my whole intent, and it was like a rough experiment for me to see like maybe they might pick it up if it's just there. I just want it to be available. So it's really cool to hear you say that. That's like something that as an adult you look back and it was kind of like impactful overall into just making it a pathway that was available, and then that kind of made it cool for you. So.
Yeah, it was more about the opportunity, and I am not a big. I mean, we're all musicians, we're all rebels in some sense, and like the things that my parents wanted me to do, I never wanted to do, and like being in a band, in a rock band, was like it was accepted, but it was not expected, and like to be able to explore that on my own, like make mistakes and do dumb stuff and whatever, like to have that opportunity was just it was foundational.
Right on. Yeah, I watch every now and then. One of my kids will sit down at my drum set, and I kind of like I just try and back off, and behind the scenes like get it.
Totally.
And he's like, I might want to play the violin in high school because he just got a violin and we just got him into lessons, and he's like, but like I don't know if I want to be in the orchestra in high school. I might just play drums in high school. And I'm like, oh yeah, you could totally do it.
Show him
you
yellow
could do
card.
either one of those things, buddy.
Yellow card for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, exactly. He's really into right now. He's really into like Irish folk music because of the fiddling.
Yeah.
And so the other day I put on Flogging Molly, and he was just like, and I can't remember the song, or the song has to be called Seven Deadly Sins. I can't remember the name of the record. But the moment that it turned on, he was just like, "Oh yeah, I like that. I like that." And I was just like, "All right, man, we're going on this journey together." So yeah, it's so much. That's so much fun. So I mean, I think the hardest part about becoming a father and having like the history that all of us do is you kind of want to be like, I had this great experience and I learned so much from it, and you want them to kind of be able to learn those same things, but then to have the the wherewithal to like step back and be like, if my parents had forced me to do any of this, I would have been like, I don't know, I think I might be into like curling, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're settling in Vancouver, you said, and like, so you're trying to kind of figure this all out, and then you're also just kind of trying to figure this whole music thing out. But was there like a record that stuck out to you, like I don't know what's happening inside of me, but so you feel something down deep inside you that just moved you to kind of set your compass towards music?
Yeah, I think there's two. So one is Dookie by Green Day, and the second is the Blue Album by Weezer. And the thing that like when I reflect back on like the Van Halen is, obviously like musically very interesting, and it's also really complex, and like it's really hard as a a beginning guitarist to sit down and like
Oh yeah.
learn any Van Halen song.
I've been trying for 30 years.
It's exactly right. It's like I can
I can
play
go
like I can play like Unchained, and like if you squint at it, Eruption on a good day, and like, but you know, Blue Album and Dookie were those like, okay, this gives me that emotional hit, that gives me this dopamine rush, but it's also approachable from like
it's accessible.
it's accessible. I can play these songs, and more importantly, like I can write like this.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
to be able to hear that and also emotionally connect with it was really, really important for me. Because it showed it was accessible, showed it was attainable. It also showed that you can do like stupid stuff in your garage and get super popular with it. You know?
Yeah. Hey, so what's the best song off of Dookie?
Oh man, it is.
I was all by myself.
What is the burnout?
Burnout's great.
Burnout's great. I love it because it's like it's a timeless message that in periods of my life when I'm going through burnout, it like speaks to me really really well.
That's cool. And then the Blue Album. What's the best song off the Blue Album?
Let's see.
In the Garage, obviously.
In the Garage is great. I love it because he talks about like Kitty Pryde and Kiss being one of his favorite bands, and I also love Kiss. So like to have somebody like Rivers Cuomo who is like just so cool. Like Rivers Cuomo is not cool. He's like capital C cool. He like embodies cool, right?
He owns it.
And for him to be able to say, I love Kiss, it was like, it was like recognition.
You're like, see, he does too.
Yes, exactly.
I'd like to come clean with the world right now and say, I always thought it was Kid Pride.
Oh,
I'm a kid, I've got Kid Pride. And then when I learned it was Kitty Pride, I wasn't going to tell anybody. But now I have.
But now you've told the entire world. So.
yeah, he's a dork. I love it. He's unashamed to be a dork, which is great.
Very cool. Very cool.
Right on. So you hear Green Day, you hear Weezer, and you're like, oh wait, I can do this. I can write like that. How soon do you have the audacity to approach other people and be like, dude, I'm writing songs? And how old were you to be like, I'm doing this? Are you in? Because I mean, I've already said like Joel and I were like 13, 14 years old, and you were already like a Van Halen head at 6. So like, how long after you hear Green Day and Weezer do you start to approach other people and be like, who else is into this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think there is a lot here. I think what's weird is in those like early phases of being like, 6 to about 13, 14, I like desperately wanted to be a rock star, but like I just didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to write songs. I didn't know how to like record them. I didn't know how to like,
get an agent. It's
yes,
crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Who wants to manage me, please?
How do you master the mix?
Exactly. And so I think like it was like that. And this is why I think I eventually became like a front man that didn't have to play an instrument, because I wanted to be a rock star, but I didn't want to learn how to play an instrument well enough to be able to like write songs. I wanted to like mess around and look really cool and impress girls and do all of those things.
Such aggressive lead singer qualities.
Exactly. But I didn't want to like put the legwork in to actually figure out how to do the
So
thing.
what you're saying is you were smarter than all of us.
I was lazy.
Skip to the front of the line. Okay, all right, fair enough.
So I started doing. I joined choir in 3rd grade, and then went through all the way through senior year of high school, and eventually, and I did like Seattle Children's Choir and jazz choir and like musicals and like all those things, and tried to do as much as I possibly could musically while still being able to graduate high school. And like, I'll be honest, I barely graduated high school. I did not do. I was like way more focused on.
You're not talking to a bunch of honor students.
Yeah. I was way more focused on playing music and trying to tour and like do all that stuff when I was in high school than I was actually focused on school. And if I could go back, I wouldn't do it any differently, because it was those like pivotal moments in my life. But what happened was I my brother was super into recording. He had a 4-track recorder, and I got this like really, really crappy recording software. I can't remember what it was. I think it just came with Windows. And I would start doing like these, like chopping up songs and like remixing them based on like MP3s and stuff when I was like, 12 to 13, 14. This is like some techno remix of like James Bond, and I'd like mix it with another song, and they all sounded like garbage. But like I started learning a DAW, right? I started learning like how to do music production, and I'd show it to people, and they'd be like, "What are you doing? Dude? Like this is what a waste of time." And
woof woof.
yes, yeah. I was just it was a nightmare, but it got me hooked on that. I'd say one of the most important feedback loops in all of this, which is like you create a thing and you show it to a thing and you look for the response from the person. And if that person is a positive response, then it's like that positive dopamine hit and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna do this again. And then I plugged a mic into the computer and I started just writing and this is probably when I was like 14 or 15. And I started releasing songs under the name Densmore, and I went back and actually found those original recordings recently, and they're rough. They're super rough. They're really bad. There's some like magic in there, but by and large, they're just pretty bad songs. They're songs written by a 14-year-old, and they're horribly recorded
and conspicuously like Green Day and Weezer.
Yeah. Almost identical.
Yeah.
And I wrote
She is Jonas.
So I wrote these songs, and they were like bad, and they were not good, and like I like burned some CDs and like handed them out to people, and people were like, "Whoa, this is like there's somebody at our school making music, and this is kind of interesting." And then I just kept doing that more and more and more and more, and started.
What year was that?
So I was let's see. I was 14 and 15 when I was doing that. So I was born in 1987. Let's do some fast math. 2001.
Okay, yeah.
What class were you? What year you graduate?
06.
06.
Yeah.
So we're a bunch of O2s, and but if you had a CD with noise on it that you made,
people
there
were
was
like,
Nobody had that in my high school.
yeah, that was like
We told people we were
guys
in
are
a band.
really
You
we were
said,
those
"I'm in
people
a
also.
band."
So that's like I remember that when you're describing that, I'm like I know exactly how that feels.
Yeah.
and it feels so badass to go
Yeah.
to like a live performance, and then you're just like, do you want to
buy a CD?
You want to buy a CD?
Yeah.
They didn't have
Also-
to hear what was on it. They were just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but then in retrospect, when you go back and listen, we're like, we were selling these.
Yeah.
We were selling these, really.
I don't know, dude. We're selling this, so it is what it is.
It's okay.
You
To be
gotta,
fair.
yeah. You
Okay,
take
so,
those steps.
yeah.
It's a good historical artifact to have that.
Save that forever.
Old record. And then I tried to like get guys together to play music in a couple different iterations, and it was not super interesting. Everyone was just, I'd say, like unfortunately not as passionate as I was about it, and like they were into other things, and that's totally fine. The trick was really finding that group of people that were passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And like to continue on with like the laziness theme here, I'd say that when I was dating a girl, we broke up, and then she knew the guys from Aphony, and she introduced us. And that was that moment where it was like, actually, there was a band before that. This is such a horribly embarrassing story, but this is great.
Oh, perfect.
This is great for pod.
I'm here for it.
So I don't even know how I met these guys, but I tried out for a band, and it was like the tryout was in the basement of their parents' house in Laurelhurst, which is like, you don't know, Seattle, Laurelhurst is this neighborhood that is just incredibly wealthy, and these kids were just absolutely off the charts wealthy. And I came from Shoreline, single mom, like did not have a wealthy upbringing.
Shoreline's extremely wealthy now.
That doesn't sound.
It is wealthy now.
Right?
It is wealthy now.
This is old Shoreline. Okay?
This is old Shoreline. Yeah.
He's OG.
And it was, and I remember being like, wow, you guys are like rich. You guys are rich kids. And that did not sit really well with them. Me mentioning that, it was sort of like an off the cuff comment. And so I
Did your
tried.
mom vacuum this morning?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
is
You guys have
crazy.
carpet, not dirt. And so I tried out, and they wanted to do Incubus covers, which, like, no shade on Incubus. I love Incubus, but, like, I really wasn't, like, looking to be in an Incubus cover band.
Right.
And we tried out. It went well. I went back again, and going into the basement, they had a sheet of paper with the pros and cons of me.
Wow.
As a frontman. And on the list was, like, pros. He can sing. He has a PA. And that was like the ends of the pros list. And on the cons,
That's how Ozzy got into his band.
really,
Just be able to sing
Yeah.
and have a PA.
And
That's
there's
all you
like
needed.
50 things in the cons,
yeah.
but he can sing.
in the cons, it was like hair, because I had the classic like emo cut.
Yeah.
And these guys were like they played in basketball jerseys. They were bros. They were like it was very different scene than I was trying to like be a part of. So it's hair. He wears tight pants. And he called us rich. And I was like, okay, this is obviously like
He
not
took the piece of paper and said, "Pardon me while I burn."
Yeah. I like, get that.
Pardon me while I there you go.
Touche.
Incubus, all right, very
That's
nice,
good.
very good.
You know, it's funny because it's like I look at that list and I'm like, that's the pros list to me.
Sure.
I know
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
those
He's got
those
tight
kids,
pants,
like
guys.
Yeah.
like you understood something that they
Did
hadn't
not,
figured out
clearly.
yet is that like it's like basketball jerseys. Like I think if you're not in Corn, don't really work in
Yeah,
rock and
totally.
roll.
Did they sit you down with the paper and say,
No,
we want to talk to you about it? We've got these.
I just discovered it. And it was like, it was one of those moments where like, oh, I'm seeing something I'm really not supposed to be seeing right now. And like, if I call this out, everyone in this room is going to be horrifyingly embarrassed. I better just ignore this and never come back, which is what happened. So then I got introduced to the From Aphony guys, and those guys were fucking serious. They were serious about making music. And all of a sudden, I was thrown into a group of guys where I thought I was serious. These guys were like for real serious.
Yeah.
And I all of a sudden felt outmatched.
Wow.
But to find that kind of inspiration. Oh my God.
Totally.
I mean, that's
So it's like match meet gasoline here.
Yeah, and like on our first hangout, they were like, "You sit over there. We're gonna play you like the first record," and they played 5 straight songs, and they were like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like this is what I've been looking for." And like we didn't, they lived in it's like Redmond, Juanita, like Bothell area. So half of them lived in Redmond, half lived in Bothell. I lived in Shoreline, so I had to like commute by bus because I didn't even have a license, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to like get together and to figure it all out, and it definitely paid off. Like the success that we saw as like little kids in a band is like nothing I've ever experienced and nothing I'll probably ever experience again. But it was that moment of like all of a sudden I felt like I was an imposter. Like I showed up like I'm supposed to be the guy that sings, and they're like, "All right, let's go." And I was like, "What? Let's go." I've never like written a song with anyone else in my entire life. Like I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It was a blast though.
Yeah.
It was an absolute blast.
So this is interesting for me to hear this side of the story because my introduction to From Aphony was through my orthodontist. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird story. So basically,
Dr. Payton.
what happened?
Well, hang on. Before
Actually,
you tell the
it is
story
Dr.
about the
Payton.
Way to go, Dr. Payton.
Before
Des
the
Moines,
ortho,
Washington.
where can I find the Incubus cover band?
Oh yeah. They actually showed up to one of our shows one time, and I was like, it was one of those moments where I was like, the hot girl that you like.
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
date
yeah.
shows
And
up,
you're
and
like,
you're like,
yes.
yes. And it was a packed house at Studio 7, and I was like,
dude.
fuck yes.
Also, we're gonna send you the podcast. But no, so it's funny is like
They're all in middle management at Kroger stores now. That's what's going on.
so no, my introduction to you guys because like we were like same path as you, a few years ahead. And so we've already got kind of a band thing going, and my orthodontist knows that I have a band because it's like, I don't know, just like drips when you're sitting in the chair.
Yeah, of course.
You're at your spike bracelet.
Yeah. It's like they know something's
The
going on.
choker necklaces.
Yeah.
So the hygienist or whatever they're called, she's like, my husband, like has like a company, he kind of talks to some bands and stuff because you're like this in the chair, so you can't say anything. So they're just talking, and she's like, yeah. So my daughter really likes this one band. I don't know if you heard of them. They're called From Aphony, and like at the time I'm like, never heard of them, but a few times I'm getting my braces tightened up or whatever, and I was like, I better check this band out. So then we kind of end up working this it was kind of
Are you
interesting.
saying when the laughing gas wore off, all you could remember was From Aphony?
It's the only thing I remembered was From
He
Aphony.
woke up just chanting it.
From Aphony. We owe that person a debt of gratitude.
Yeah.
That hygienist.
Her name was Gail. She's really cool. So I remember just thinking, okay, I got to check this band out. And long story short, our band ended up kind of working a deal. Her husband started this clothing company. Think again, I don't remember that.
Steve Perry.
Steve Perry. His name is Steve Perry. Birth name.
Whoa.
Not that Steve Perry. But I was a little let down because I was like,
Yeah, dude, you were that close. You were that close.
But so their daughter was just like a huge fan of you guys. I don't think they were like really tied to you guys in any way. Maybe she went to one of your schools or something. I don't know. But she was like a huge fan of yours. And this is before your guys' kind of rise to what I think of where I was like, oh yeah, those guys?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So I remember just like, okay, I'm checking them out. And obviously you remember back in those days that meant not Googling, but like I had to like talk to people.
Sure.
And I was like, you ever heard of this band at shows and stuff? I saw flyers. So I'm picking up pieces here. And then the next thing that I see out of nowhere is Taste of Chaos from Aphony. And then I saw a picture of you guys on the stage and I was just like, the orthodontist guys? Like those guys?
Rad.
Yeah. And then like fast forward way later and I meet up with Keith. And that's kind of more my introduction to even really meeting you because I don't think I really even knew who you were. I just know you were the guy in the band. But so that's what's so crazy to me is like my introduction to you had nothing to do with playing with you guys and had nothing to do with like we went to the same schools. It just was like your prowess as a like kind of out of nowhere up and coming artist and all those things that you were talking about, like they just really had their shit together.
Yeah.
That's what led my path to cross yours. And I don't like using the term I've made it, but like in that path, where did you feel like we're doing something real here? Not just like playing around. Cause we did lots of playing around, me and Matt, but like now you're doing the big boy stuff. Where did that happen for you? Where'd that click?
I think there was to sort of like illustrate how Jacob in the band, our guitarist, he did a lot of the songwriting, but he also like for a 15, 16-year-old kid, he carried himself in like such an adult and serious way that like his attitude was like people just don't know about us yet, and like when they do, they'll realize that like this is a thing that they want to be a part of. And I never had that level of confidence. I still don't have that level of confidence. And
Could have fooled me.
and he was great because he was like the motivational backbone of the band, like continuing to push and move forward. And there was a moment where we played with we got asked to open for Bullet for My Valentine at El Corazon.
I remember that.
And it was like a KISW show, and it was a huge deal for us. And I think the promoter was like, "We'll give you like $1,000 if you open." We're like, $1,000? We'll pay.
Which is the most money you've ever heard of.
Yes, exactly.
Guys, shut up!
I'll pay to play this show.
When you drive a hard bargain, sir.
We will accept your $1,000.
Exactly. And that was, and like the reason why I bring up Jacob being sort of like the motivational backbone for the band and having that attitude of like, we are great and you just haven't heard of us yet, was that when the promoter tried to stiff us of that $1,000 and he went into El Corazon and told the guy to fuck off and give us our money. And I was like, we already played the show. Like
we got paid.
We got paid by just having people watch us, and from that we got a ton of fans and et cetera, and a bunch of show offers. But like for him to take that and be like, no, we have been wronged, and we're going to get that money. It was like a moment of like. It was a galvanizing moment for the band, a level of conviction for us to be like, okay, we are going to take this seriously. This is going to be a thing that's actually important in our lives, and we're going to like defend it with whatever we can. And there were like moments before that, but that was a pivotal point where it was like, all right, this is serious. We're going to defend it. We're going to take this seriously. It was really, really cool.
Did you get paid?
We did.
There
That's
you go.
amazing.
That's what mattered. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I've never been that guy in the band. If someone had been like, "Yeah, we had $1,000 for you, but now it's gone," I'd be like, "You know what?
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah,
next time,
same.
But next time, maybe we could, do this again. If you
Yeah.
have like even smaller shows, maybe we could
Yeah.
just get together some coffee. Can you give me a Starbucks gift card? Would be fantastic. That would be my attitude.
I think before that, we had so my dad had paid for us to do like a 5-song EP at Robert Lang when we were
This is some wheels clicking.
we were
now,
like
too.
we were like 15, something like that, and we recorded that. And like,
Is there a girl on the cover of that record?
no, that was 2 records later.
Okay,
2 records later.
all right.
another EP, so easily confusable. But the
Is that how? Just maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but is that how Keith got hooked up with Austin and the Aiden guys later?
yeah, that was
through Robert Lang.
That was through Robert Lang.
Okay.
And
Because that was my introduction to Keith, which is really how I that was my pipeline
Sure.
to you today.
sure, yeah, yeah, man, he had so much fun hitting the road with those guys. It's
Oh, man,
awesome.
yeah.
I'm super jealous of that experience. It's cool. But he, so we recorded this like 5 or 6 song EP, whatever it was. Everything's like a 5-song EP with like an intro or an interlude or something like that in
course
those
it is.
days, right? And you try and like rip off as much movie quotes as you can at the beginning of a song. We had this song that had a little clip from Donnie Darko, and we put that song out. And it started getting traction on like Pure Volume, and I don't even know if you were on MySpace then. And then we had some friends who introduced us to Justin and Adrian, who owned a record label called Less Avenged, and they were also 15-year-old kids with
Yeah.
a record label, and they knew how to make great websites and how to skin
Yes.
MySpace.
We got to
pages.
get them on, like the
Yes, we do.
audacity
Yeah,
to
yeah.
start a record label with with the funds of a 15-year-old.
They're awesome too.
Yeah, they're great.
No, that sounds
I still
fantastic. I love
every so often keep in touch with them. Super great dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's actually a Seattle Times article, floating around about them and us as 15-year-old kids
Yes.
trying to take on the music scene in Seattle as
That's
children.
my impression looking back at you guys. I was just like, dude, they're like way younger than us.
Yeah, and it was all like, if I'm being completely honest, like it is obviously hard work, but like it was so much luck. The fact that because there were so many bands in Seattle at that time that were so much better than us and more interesting and writing better stuff, and we just somehow hit on something that clicked.
Talk to Jacob.
Dr. Jacob, yeah. And it was awesome.
Those bands sucked.
And so we record this, EP, whatever, and we then go back to Bob Lang. We record a full length, and that's when we started talking with the Less Avenged guys. And the Less Avenged guys were like, we're gonna like book a record release show at Kirkland Teen Center for you guys.
Which back in the day, Teen Center doesn't sound that cool, but like I remember that was like
Yeah.
a
That
was a
big
rad
deal.
venue.
Yeah. The teen centers in Seattle, the Seattle area at that time, like I don't know whose idea it was to like play shows there, but they were like foundational music venues. Ground Zero, K-Tub,
Yep.
Redmond Firehouse.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
places were unbelievable, and it was great because like parents could send their kids there. And it was like, yeah, sure, we were smoking cigarettes outside, but like for the most part, we weren't
was-
getting into too
But there
much.
It was
wasn't,
pretty
there
safe,
wasn't
though.
a bar there full of
Exactly.
like adult people
all
getting
ages.
hammered.
You
and
bring
all
a
that
can
nonsense.
of food and you get $1 off your ticket or
Dude,
whatever.
those were the days,
Yeah.
man.
And so they book us the show at Kirkland Teen Center, and I was like, we had played like nothing going into this. Like all of our shows were basically friends and family, and that was it. And that first record release show, it was a packed house, and I was like, what the hell happened
Yeah.
here? Like, what the fuck changed? And from that moment, it was like that step level change of all of a sudden there were people at the shows that weren't friends and family, which like, if you haven't made a band before and you haven't like tried to get people to your shows, your first 3-4 shows packed with friends and family, those people will eventually disappear from the crowd.
They can only hear the same song so many
And
times.
the only people left are the fans, and most of the time, that's no one.
I've already watched
It's
the
an
bass
empty
player
house.
make this joke after the fourth song.
Exactly. Getting over that hump of getting actual people to your shows is like the impossible thing of being in a band, and that's where most people fail. You know, you play those shows when there's no one there, and you're like, what's happening here? What are we actually doing here? And like, you know, this is ultimately what happened to us on tour. Was that we went on tour and it was like we're in Long Beach, California, and the only people at the show are the regulars at the bar, and they're not even turning around. They're just like facing the
There's
bar.
more
and listening.
people on the stage than there are in the audience.
Exactly, and that's like
That's very
Lubbock,
humbling.
Texas for me, but yeah.
it's hard. It's hard as a you know, when you're playing those like Spokanes and Portlands and Seattles and Tacoma, and you're getting people out to shows, and then you're like, my energy is based on the size of the crowd and the energy I'm getting back, and then you go to Long Beach and it's like your first shows again, and it's like, man.
Did you ever have an experience where you were expecting maybe a large crowd and then like no one shows up? And obviously I'm just going to relate this back to me. Why not? But there were times when like, okay, we realized, oh, we're going to be on in 15 minutes. There's no one here. They're not coming. There's 10 people here, but guess what? These 10 people are about to see us rock harder than
Faces melted.
anyone
Yeah.
that has ever seen us play before.
Might have even been
did
your
you
best
guys
show.
ever have that mentality?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
there a time where you're just like, you know what, this is for all 15 of us in the room?
Yes, exactly,
you know?
exactly. Like,
The one guy dancing in the front.
yeah.
It's for you,
You
man.
got it, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, that like there's I guess that point that you reach where, and my dad always like tried to beat this into me, not actual physical violence, but like, you know,
It was tattooed on the back of his hand.
yes, exactly.
With cigarettes.
Exactly. No, you'd say like, you know, you're like in the entertainment business, you're in show business, and the idea is like you play for the people that came, not for the people that didn't come, and to be able to turn that into okay, there's 5 people here. Those 5 people are gonna go home with a fucking story. That's what
Yeah.
they're going home with, right?
Absolutely.
And this is gonna be the thing, and to be able to do that, and like, you know, it doesn't always work, and you try hard, and sometimes you get those stinker shows, but like, yeah, having that mentality of like, I'm here to entertain, and that's my goal. We're a band second, we're entertainers first, and that is definitely an ethos that we tried to embody, and it's hard sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, frankly, I mean, as long as there's like a passion for it.
Yeah.
I mean, 50 people watched our first episode. I'd be stoked if 50 people watched the second and third.
Yeah, see, that's the
so
thing
it's
is-
like it's just like you just the point is that you just do it because
Exactly.
it's fun. Like it's like I've learned things about my buddy Joel, who I've known since I was 13 years old. I just learned Marvin's last name today. You know, and like,
But I've got this crazy imagination, and I'm imagining, you guys know the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they come out on stage and they're naked.
That's it.
but they have socks. They have socks.
They have socks. Of course, they have socks. But you do that. You got this whole plan, and you come out. There's 5 people.
yeah.
That's the show. No, okay, so I just want to tie it back to what you said, though, because you said this about, because you do stand-up comedy, you said, well, I'm just going to keep up there, and I'm going to keep failing until I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm hearing you say is like, and I feel like in retrospect, that's something that you guys had where the reason why I was like, yo, check these guys out. They're so young. And like, look what they're doing is I think you guys had that figured out like right away. Is like, you just go for it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Those first shows are always going to suck. And like, they're going to be hard. But the only way to get chops and like to be good on stage is to do it over and over and over again so that you can get over that. Like, we're actually, with my current band, we're like now hitting the point where the songs are so they're so ingrained, you can like actually have fun on stage. You're not worried.
You're not thinking about-
Yeah, you're not worried about what the next
Yeah.
part is. All of a sudden, you get to have fun on stage, and that's where the magic happens.
Yes.
You know?
Wait, but
Pause
on
and I
that
can
note,
grab-
I just want to mention, if there's any young musicians here, there's probably not, but if there are, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Fail and keep going. Like, do that. Don't think this has got to be perfect. This has got to be great.
100%.
Fail and fail again and fail again and fail again and then be great.
Until you don't.
It just has to be fun.
Or fail a few more times and then be great.
I think this is a great point because like it feels like when you become, like comfortable on stage, what you learn how to do is fail and not make it seem like a failure.
Yeah, and not even reactive. You play
Exactly.
I love when you play a wrong note and in your mind you're like,
yeah,
but in
Just
reality
did that.
you're like, yeah.
exactly.
Make it look good.
That's why recording sucks so bad. Like it's so
can't do
cool to like play a song
Sure.
and just like whatever happened, but you just have to keep going. It's what a perfect metaphor for life.
Yeah.
To play a song live, be like, well, I flubbed that, but there's no
gone.
other option. No one else is
on.
stopping for me. No one's gonna let me redo that.
Yeah.
Which is like,
In fact, no one's going to ask me to redo that.
one of
right?
the worst things that's happened to me as a musician, like as of late, is the ability to record at my house by myself, to sit there and like I'll play something and like, nah, I can do it better.
Yes.
No, I can do it better. I need someone there to be like,
That was good
That's
enough.
good
you
enough.
just played the same thing 20 times, dude. Just let it go. So anyway, one thing that we discussed recently that I think is when I'm thinking about like musical history is like you mentioned the Weezer Blue album, and that's the album that I relate to like my first love. Like the first time
romantic interest?
Romantic interest, exactly. So like there was a girl, I'm only in 7th grade, and I don't know what Weezer's singing about because so much of it is about heartbreak. But I knew this girl was breaking my heart, and she'd never had any idea. But like, do you have a record that you can associate with that first feeling that you had?
Yeah. There were, I'd say, plenty where individual songs gave me that feeling. Thanks, dude. Individual songs gave me that feeling. Like even on Dookie, there was some. I think she or her, whatever the name is, and I was like,
she screams in silence.
Yes.
Yeah,
My name.
great song.
And I remember being like in 3rd grade, being like, yeah, I know what heartache is. So there were definitely those like moments, but I'd say, and this is, I've had this like real like common theme of emo music through my entire life, and I'd say probably The Places You Come to Fear the Most, or Places Whatever It Is by Dashboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking freely, and I was like, that's a song.
Come to Fear the Most. That Dashboard record, it was like, I was like 15 or something like that, and I was in a relationship that was just like, I was way out over my skis on that thing. And like, I think, she cheated on me, and like, I listened to that record, and it was just like, it was awful. But like,
Did you notice that her hair was all over the place?
exactly. That's what tipped me off, was that song. No,
She cursed like a sailor.
but there's like, in that period of my life, I think, there's that idea that like, that period of like 15 to 18 is where your brain is really soaking up the cultural influences, and you sort of get like trapped or stuck in that time. And I'd say that the records from that time obviously still hit the hardest, but there was like the Seosin record,
The white one or the one before?
The one that has like a
with
beat
Anthony Green?
No, the first Anthony
Yeah.
Green record, it's got like 5-6 songs
Yeah.
on it. 7 Years is on it, that record. Under Oath was a big one. And Dashboard. And it was just like those records. Before that, it's kind of interesting. I remember meeting the cool people in my high school that listened to the music that I wanted to listen to, because before that I was listening to like, more mainstream, but on the like 107.7 The End vibes, so like Weezer and those, but like I was missing out on the Finches and the Starting Line, Dashboards.
Hold on,
and
so
all
the
that.
cool kids at your school were listening to
From my perspective.
from your
Okay.
perspective.
The
Okay,
cool
I was
kids
gonna
from my
say
perspective,
I was gonna say
Not necessarily popular, but like going back to that like capital C cool, where it was just like those guys are
They got it.
rad, and I want to be friends with them because they're doing something cool. They
I
introduced
don't
me
think
to,
one person in my high school knew who Saves the Day was.
Oh no shit! What high school did you go to?
Franklin Pierce. I was the only person that well, when I was a senior, I was hanging out with freshmen. And I don't know if that speaks about me or about the fact that there was nobody cool in my
Just maturity level. Yeah, it
Probably
matched up
Exactly.
perfectly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, so now I wanna dig, into like what you're doing now. You mentioned that when you were like 13, you started Densmore.
Yeah.
And
So really, this is like a long running band for you then.
Yeah. So I'd say I was doing Densmore stuff while I was still in from Aphony. It was just sort of like a creative outlet because I still was doing a lot of like home recording stuff and trying to just continue writing songs and getting better at that. Because ultimately, I think the most interesting part of music to me is creating recordings and releasing records. And the instrumentation and music, like writing music and playing instruments has just been like a means to an end to get songs out. So like, I'd say that I'm as good of a guitarist as I need to be in order to write the songs that I want to write. Same with drums and bass and vocals and all that. And like beyond that, I haven't had a ton of interest of like learning to play guitar for guitar's sake. It's always to record music, produce it, and release it.
Can I just take 1 second to say, when you were talking earlier about how you were being lazy or whatever, and I'm thinking 2020 lens, I assume you didn't tell me, but like I assume you played drums, bass, keyboard. Like, so the first Densmore record that I've heard, really, you did everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking like,
You sound lazy to me.
This isn't the laziest musician I've ever met. I was like, he's a pretty good drummer, he's a pretty good guitar player, he's a pretty good singer, he's pretty good keyboard player. Like, you kind of check all the boxes. So in my mind, it's like, I feel like you're being really humble saying that you're like doing just good enough, because when I look at it from a really critical perspective, I'm thinking like I gotta see whatever he's doing over here.
I think that pros and cons list really screwed you up.
Yeah. I had an axe to grind against everyone.
Not a big fan of your hair right now. I'm being honest.
Me neither, man. Me neither.
How tight are those pants?
Very, very. It's interesting because like everyone in my band now is better at the roles that they play, the instruments that they play, than I am at any of them.
But you're the visionary,
That must
though.
feel pretty good, though.
It is
Not have
really
to, like,
good.
babysit you. Like,
It
please,
is really
can you
good.
please get it
Yeah,
right?
to be able to like hand a song over to somebody and them to come back to practice and be like, we've got the song dialed and let's run through it. It's fantastic.
Dude, isn't it so much fun being in bands with adults?
It is.
What a joy.
It's the most drama-free band I've ever been in my
It's
entire
just
life.
like,
for sure.
I was mentioning earlier, our buddy Adam texted me about a thing, and I was telling him, I was like,
Adam Bishop?
Yeah, I got to play in the
Also
band.
played bass on the
On
Oh,
the
nice,
song,
nice.
yeah, and he's gonna be a guest. We'll get him in here for sure. But I got to play in his band, Truce, for just maybe 3 or 4 shows, and it was just, I was like, it was like the most fun that I'd had.
Wait,
in a
I just have to
band
show up and
because
play?
It was like
Yeah.
I get to just play and we get to have fun and enjoy the thing we're doing, as opposed
Yeah.
to being like, what did this other band do? And like, dude, I don't know.
Sure.
Like, is my hair right? I don't
Yeah.
know.
And as the creative, though, I can see what you're saying, where it's like you've got this vision for whatever, and you can be like, I designed it this way. Can you just like, and they're just like check, and deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And I'd say that it's almost like there are definitely moments now where I'd like them now to like take a bit more like creative liberties.
Oh, yeah.
With it, which is like
Because they're part of the band.
exactly. We are a band now. It is no longer like a me thing. Primary songwriter, but like it is. Everyone has input and everybody is helping out and push the band, and it's like it's great. Again, like extremely drama free, which is nothing I've experienced in a band before. It seems like there's always 1 or 2 people in a band that just love to like instigate drama for drama's sake. At least that's been my experience in every band that I've been in. And like, to give everyone a bit
Are
of
you guys
grace.
looking
here.
for another member?
It's like a vacation, if I'm being honest. No, to give everyone a little bit of grace, like in from Aphony, we were 15 years old, and like we just didn't know how to deal with interpersonal conflict.
I was going to say
like
that pair was me and Matt.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was always just I mean, we were always like, well, even though we were like constantly, fighting, it was still like we felt like there was a common goal.
Yeah.
I felt so like
we're trying to get to the same place.
Yeah, it's like so let's get there, and we'll talk about this on like just an episode
separate.
without a guest because I've got 1,000 things to say about that. But dude, we gotta wrap this up.
Yeah.
And Jake, do you have obviously like promoting Densmore? What do you guys have coming up next?
Yeah,
What's
tell
up?
us.
Yeah, so we're playing shows in Seattle. I don't know, like it's probably not super timely to like list dates, but
you have a record out.
Got a record out. Yeah, it's called the Stanley EP. Continuing to release music. Got another song finished last night for like production finished on it. About to release that. Check it out on Spotify. It's really. It's the music that I've like wanted to write and record for my entire life, and it just feels really, really good and cathartic, and it's just it's full of me, which is like not something that I can confidently say about other stuff that I've put out before.
For sure.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to listen to it. I haven't heard it yet, but just like based on like that snippet you gave me, it's like that makes me stoked to listen to it, man.
Awesome.
So list the ats. Tell us exactly how to find you.
At Densmore Band on Instagram. That's the primary one. I think it's Densmore_band, but you'll find it. Densmore is fantastic for Google because there's not a whole lot of Densmore anything out there. So if you just Google,
He
Densmore
locked
Band,
that down when he was 13
exactly.
years
Yeah,
old.
Forward thinking.
I'm gonna dominate Densmore, man.
And it's also a great name. It's the road that my dad grew up on in Shoreline.
Nice.
So Densmore
Wicked.
Avenue. Yeah, and it used to be Densmore Avenue.
I was gonna say back in
OG.
2004, your band would have
Exactly.
been called Densmore Avenue.
Yep, exactly.
Cool.
All right, wonderful.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
This
It was
is
a
like
blast.
a dream come true. I think I speak for all of us to say like this was probably our most successful podcast yet, just because we're not just talking to us. Like we're talking to somebody, and it's just fluid.
Somebody amazing.
No, but it's just like I'm learning things. I felt like I kind of had like an idea of what we were going to talk about, and it just went everywhere else. This was incredible.
Let me know if you guys ever want me back. I'd love to come back.
Anytime.
We'd love to have you.
Open invitation.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. Do the like and subscribe.
Smash that like.
Smash it.
Do all the things.
Destroy that subscribe
Frankly,
button.
this was the best intro to a podcast we'd ever had, and we're still trying to figure out how to end it. And I think at this point you just hit the stop.
I think
button.
they're already gone right now.
I want you to know that I miss you so.
I would like guitars to come out of the borders, and maybe some like
Some fresh
American
graphics.
flags or something.
I don't
Maybe not,
listen.
maybe
I
not,
don't
maybe
listen
political.
to the last 20 seconds of any podcast anyway.
See you
So
next
this is
time.
where I get to say no.
Have deals.